Hi, this is William Ramsey. Welcome to William Ramsey Investigates. On tonight's show, I have a returning guest, one of my favorite guests. Her name is Roberta Glass. She runs the True Crime Report on YouTube, so go check that out. She has tons of great content there. But we're going to talk about something we talked about last year in 2020, and it's interesting that this popped up again. So there was a documentary titled Alan. Ow! And we talked last year about the same subject, but not with this much detail. It was a 4-part series on HBO, and so we're going to talk about that tonight. So, Roberta Glass, are you there?
Yes, very excited to talk about this. Yeah.
Cool. So, I mean, it was pretty interesting. 4 parts. It was very in-depth, a lot of first-person statements by Mia Farrow. I learned a lot about her family and Dylan Farrow, and just this very kind of complex, kind of my thoughts were like, if you think your family is dysfunctional, you can watch this, but it was really something else. So what were your kind of first impressions?
Well, I was disappointed in some ways because they took, and I don't know if it really matters, but as I was disappointed in what they left out of Mia Farrow's background, of Mia Farrow and Woody Allen together. And so it sort of set up this dichotomy where Mia Farrow is wonderful and terrific and the best mother, best person in the world. She was just a little too naive. And Woody Allen is this horrible person, terrible person, And what it left out is, I mean, obviously, as someone, I was friends with Dory Previn, which Mia Farrow broke up that marriage. I think she says in this that that Andre and Dory Previn's marriage was breaking up. It was not breaking up. They were a partnership. They were writing partners. He did the music. She wrote the lyrics. I mean, they were really a formidable couple, and she broke that up. They also don't talk about Christine Engelhardt, who has pretty much the whole a lot of time in the second episode of this series, that she was brought into a threesome with Mia Farrow and Woody Allen. And I think that's important detail, not to make Mia Farrow an enemy. It doesn't suggest that she coached her daughter or anything, but it just adds some kind of flavor into that. Mia Farrow was not enough for Woody Allen. He needed to get an underage partner and bring it into this threesome. So
right, and she was
left out.
Yeah, but Engelhardt was with Epstein before Allen, right? So she was like an underage. I don't know if she was trafficked, but she had a relationship with Epstein too before Allen, right?
16. So when did she meet Epstein?
I don't know. I got to look at my facts, but I know that she had a long relationship with Epstein.
Right.
And she talked about it.
And what you brought up just before we started recording is that they didn't bring up Woody Allen's relationship with Epstein.
Right.
And Woody Allen's not someone who has a lot of friends, and he seems to have people who do things for him, who serve a purpose. So what would Epstein's purpose be in Woody Allen's life if it were not to supply him with underage girls?
I don't know. What else would it be? But I mean, that was like the interesting thing about the documentaries is it showed, I think in the second part, how many of his storylines, he's making a movie every year, right? How many of his storylines are about him and an underage or young kind of naive girl. And then he twists their kind of sexuality towards him. Like they're the ones that are pushing him for, are the more dominant or aggressively sexual. And I thought that was interesting.
They can't resist this small, nebbish,
neurotic,
New York intellectual.
Yeah.
He's such a sex symbol. Which, I mean, it's kind of funny that he did make himself kind of like this male, I don't even want to call it sex symbol, but leading man, and that you can do that when you write your own movies and direct your own movies. But the other thing that I think is important when you leave out Mia Farrow's, the kind of when you look at her family and she's adopting all these kids, and she even makes these admissions that are very telling. Like Woody Allen said that he would love our baby if it would love our baby if it was a little blonde girl. So I went out and adopted one, thinking he would love it and love me more. Like it was just a very telling admission that these babies perform and these children fulfill needs in her, deeply as primal motivation for, but the reason why I bring this up, so, Mia Farrow is not being accused of sexually abusing her children. She's being accused of physically and emotionally abusing her kids by Moses, but that came out way later. And how reliable it is, I don't know. It could, both can be true. They both can be terrible people, and Woody Allen can still be, still have molested and abused Dylan. But the reason that this narrative on Woody Allen's side stuck so much with the public is that there is a great deal of the public that looks at Mia Farrow and thinks that there's something very, very wrong with her. That's why it wasn't just his incredible PR team that made Woody Allen's narrative stick so well and cemented it so deeply in the public's consciousness. It's that something, you look at Mia Farrow and she seems, and she's admitting in this that she hit Sun-Yi, and in court she admitted she pummeled her arms and it hit her face. It was really like an attack. Is that the first time it happened? I don't know, but it seemed like it made sense. But when you see Woody, what makes me feel that Woody Allen is guilty has nothing to do with what Mia Farrow says, and even so much so Dylan, it's what comes out of Woody Allen's own mouth.
Yeah.
He won't take a lie detector test. Now, Woody Allen supporters just deny all this. It's, well, they're going to say that, I guess, the lead investigator in Connecticut is lying. Fine. Basically, the Woody Allen supporters, their narrative is everybody's lying but Woody Allen. But, he still, this many years later, won't say where he was for those 20 minutes.
Right. And just to go back and get kind of more of the details, the kind of assault that took place on Dylan happened after he had or been revealed to have had a relationship with Sun-Yi. So that had already happened, and then he visited Mia Farrow's place in Connecticut without Mia Farrow, with which is even weirder, with the kids there, and then they're missing for 20 minutes, and that's when Dylan says the assault. But even the TV, like the show, kind of indicated to me that he was in the way it kind of came across to me was, and this is my opinion, but there was other things going on also, that he was with her and there were inappropriate touchings and all kinds of weird stuff. Like
of course, Woody Allen supporters deny this, but it's in the court papers as statement of fact that he was in therapy. I think it was with Dr. Coates, who was also, the child's therapist, it seems like, at one point, that he was in therapy for his inappropriate relationship with Dylan.
Right.
So,
and there was he was sticking his thumb in her mouth, like weird stuff.
Right.
Yeah. Hand between her. Yeah, it was bad. Like people were seeing weird stuff. And then the therapist reported it, right? Didn't the therapist report it to
she took the child. A therapist in her building noticed Woody Allen's greeting Dylan, and she thought something was very wrong about the way he approached the child and dealt with the child. But the way that this got reported is that Mia Farrow took Dylan to a pediatrician, and the pediatrician by law in Connecticut has to report, sexual abuse. So that's how it got to the police. But it's just wild to watch him say things like, if I wanted to be a pedophile, I could have, gotten custody and molested them as often as I wanted? I mean, is that what is that where he's going with that?
It almost like he was said that, but that was also another weird element of the whole narrative or saga, is that he was never really married to Mia Farrow, but he went after custody, right? So he went for the custody, and then that was also another thing. So he was like somebody who's saying, like, I don't want a kid, I don't want this. Okay, then I'm going for custody after that. And then also he was very cold-blooded. Like, they had recordings of him with her where he was just like a lizard, man, in my opinion. He was just, well, you'll have to wait in court. You'll just have to do this, blah, blah.
Just tell me where, and he says, I'm not going to be on the cover of Newsweek and Time. And then I remember those covers. And there he was. And really utilized the media. The real mystery of this is what happened in New York with that investigation.
Right.
And what happened at Yale University. Why did and what's in Dr. Leventhal's deposition? Like, none of them showed up. You know, he got this exonerating report from Yale University saying that Dylan can't tell fiction from fantasy, fact from fantasy, and it was given directly to him, which I thought seemed very odd, but maybe that's the way it's
unethical.
Done.
Yeah, that seems very unethical to me.
And there he is, right away, willing to give a press conference. And he somehow seemed very shocked by the news, seemed prepared for it. And was money given to Yale University? Was pressure put on them? Why didn't they show up in court? What's in Dr. Leventhal's deposition? That's what I want to know. And the other thing that's very interesting is the way that he was written about in the New York investigation. They said that they called him a big fish or a big wig. I can't remember the exact phrase, that we have to deal with these kind of investigations differently. Paul Williams was fired, the investigator who believed Dylan. So it made me realize that Woody Allen's movies are really advertisements for New York City. I don't that's out to make advertise, but they're love letters to New York City, and the way he's a royalty here. They don't want to bring him down. New York City doesn't want to bring him down. That's a valuable asset to New York.
Right. And it was also weird that they interviewed Dylan times. So it's almost like they're traumatizing her again in the new, like, how many times do you have to interview her? I think Paul Williams said, like, there's a problem here. Doing this over and over. I think Paul Williams said there was enough for there was enough for a criminal investigation. So then he got sacked. And he was like a lauded caseworker. So to me, like, when I was reading that, I'm like, there's something going on behind the curtains, you know. That's kind of what I was thinking. Did you get that impression?
Well, I had a more, I mean, are you talking about sort of like a pedophile underground protecting him type thing?
More of like he put people in place to influence outcomes is kind of my, or people behind the scenes pulled strings to get the desired outcome. That's the way
I thought that with the Yale, especially New York City, though, where I've lived for decades now, really treats these people, especially people who make films like that. I can see just his persona having such heavy weight without any kind of money being exchanged or influence. But Yale, I thought, what donations were given, what influence, and also Woody Allen has like this incredible list of medical people that he employs. He has a medical doctor for practically every part of the body, and psychiatrists. And how deep does that go? How much does that? I was just curious as to whether he knew someone who knew someone at Yale, or if it was a donation, or if they just really wanted to squash it and just put it away, didn't want to be the people responsible. But the fact that none of them showed up in court seemed, I take the same opinion as the judge did. It certainly makes the report a little bit more suspect.
Right. But I mean, even the prosecutor said he thought there was enough material to take it to court, but he didn't want a 7-year-old girl to, be the one that it was all going to ride upon, right? So
Connecticut's
Connecticut. What was his name?
Mako.
Yeah, so there's a lot in there, and I just thought that. I thought that from listening to her, what would you think about Dylan? And she kind of was weaved through the entire show, but I kind of got the impression that she was trying to like detach her from her child persona. Like she dyed her hair red, she wore kind of orange lipstick. Did you kind of get that impression?
She looks troubled to me. I don't warm to any of the Farrows. I hate to see someone in pain. I sympathize. I feel badly for her. What she's been through is terrible. And I also sympathize. She kind of lost out on the parent lottery. But I don't know. To answer your question, I saw a troubled person. Do I believe her? Yes, I do believe her. But do I warm to her? Do I relate to the Farrows? No, I don't. And I think I wish that the filmmakers hadn't gotten so kind of enmeshed in the Farrow world, because it became this kind of just glowing, all. And did you think, I thought it was also very weird at the end, the last episode, where after all this happens, all this upset in the family, they leave out Mia Farrow changing all the kids' names and all the weird things that happen. And then she's got more kids. All of a sudden more kids pop up. She's adopted more kids. Like, when is this child adopting ever going to end? Like, if she had this many cats, people would be like, she's a hoarder. But because because they're human beings, she's Mother Teresa. I find it so disturbing. Same with Angelina Jolie, these kind of empty women who can never fill the hole of whatever's wrong with them with kids.
All right, are you still there?
Yeah.
Internet just blocks out sometimes, so that's 90 seconds of emptiness. Sorry, so you were talking about kind of her, about Dylan Farrow, and you weren't warm to the family.
No, I don't warm to anyone in the family, including Ronan.
Interesting.
But I think it's very interesting the way Woody Allen defenders are making this about Mia being a terrible, and Mia's doesn't have to answer these questions. Woody Allen does. I think it has to, and I was sorry that the documentary took that position of Mia Farrow being so great, Woody, because it doesn't really. I wish we got a more less biased view, And when you mesh in the Farrows and their friends and their family, you're going to like them and you're going to want to present them well. But I don't think it does any favors to basically the argument that's happening, because it's Mia Farrow's horrible, but they don't have any evidence that she coached her kid. That's what they need. Right. Who's saying she coached her? When? How? And why did she make this up?
That was the PR, right?
Right. That's what Woody Allen's defenders are saying, is that Mia, this was all made up to punish Woody Allen, and the amount of people who would have to be lying, the babysitters, right. The investigators, Woody Allen, and basically they just deny all the evidence. And the really odd stuff is that he wouldn't take a polygraph. His hair was found in the attic. He said, "I'm too claustrophobic to ever be in that attic." And then when they found his hair in there, they said, "Oh, maybe I did poke." He said, "Maybe I did poke my head around once or twice." Right. Changing his story, luring up, trying to get custody of the kids, giving very strange interviews, attacking Mia Farrow instead of answering the questions he needs to answer. They've done a very good job.
My favorite was they kind of portrayed her as a woman scorned, in the public.
Right.
And she was bizarre. I think the phrase they used was bizarre concoctions of a woman scorned, which hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. So they're referencing Shakespeare in people's minds. And I didn't see that. I mean, the real thing that happened was that broke them apart permanently was that Woody Allen was having sex with Soon-Yi, possibly when she was underage, right? Before she went to college. Right.
And, last time we talked about this, a few women said to me, thank you for bringing up something that they felt was very important, which is what I said was that, when you're a little girl and it doesn't matter that Woody Allen didn't adopt Soon-Yi, wasn't the adopted father. He was introduced to her as a father figure. And that's very destructive to insert, to sexually prey on her and groom her and, or have a relationship. However Woody Allen defenders want to fall in love, however they want to put it,
Right.
It's very destructive. And psychologically damaging and inconsiderate of what would happen to her. It's all about what he wants. And what I said last time we talked is that every woman remembers a time when someone in that kind of position of authority sexualized them. And it's a very disturbing moment in a girl's, experience. And I don't think Woody Allen defenders are getting that. It doesn't matter that he didn't adopt her officially. He was introduced to her as a father figure. Even if he was, introduced as, and I put teachers in the same category, uncles, close family friends, it's all very, very destructive. And so, I think what the Soon-Yi relationship shows is that he doesn't care what damage he causes. He wants what he wants. And that's certainly the mindset of a pedophile.
And isn't that what Dylan said? Is like when she found out about Soon-Yi, she was like, I think she said, I just found out it wasn't just me, right? Mm-hmm. So that he was, there's probably a lot more to both of those stories, in my opinion. So, the Soon-Yi stuff is pretty disturbing. I mean, I think they said in part 2, they said that there was an open question when the started whether she was still in high school or not, because I think they said he was calling her at high school or something like that, or in Connecticut. Do you remember that?
I know he was calling her at summer camp, but that was way later, so much so that she had to leave her camp counselor position. I mean, why? I think why is a middle-aged man you'd want to date a camp counselor? But I know that the maids told stories that they found condoms in the trash and stained sheets after Soon-Yi left when she was in high school from her visits to his apartment from when she was in high school. She would sneak over. So it makes... how much of this do you think was done to punish Mia Farrow?
A lot. Don't you think? Like, he probably didn't want her to be talking or having any motherly defense of her children. Don't you think that was part of it? Kind of, I got that vindictiveness. I thought was there, definitely.
Definitely, I think a lot of this was done to hurt her, break her children, take her children away, punish her. I think, and it's shocking that marriage has lasted so long between Soon-Yi and Woody Allen. And I think that, I mean, he has a very high IQ. From what I hear, she has a pretty low IQ. He's very worldly. She is not. I mean, what do they have in common besides their hatred of Mia Farrow at this point?
I don't know. I was surprised that they did 13 films together, Allen and Farrow. So she was definitely, I think part of her relationship with Allen was getting these roles, right? Constantly being in his movies and stuff like that. But I think she said over time he was eroding her self-esteem, kind of like their power dynamic. He was in control.
You can see that. I mean, he has. It really reminds you how much money Woody Allen has, and also, gosh, did you? And she also said that she was blacklisted in
Right.
America from working. Now, I kind of my eyebrow raised a little. That was she blacklisted, or was she a middle-aged actress where there were such few parts?
It might have been. I mean, they're right. So there you go back to her telling the story, right? So she's like countering with her narrative in this, and it makes me wonder how this whole documentary series got started. Was it on her behalf? Was she trying to find the director? Did the directors and the producers come and find her? Did you ever find anything about that? Because it seemed like Dylan and Mia Farrow were more than willing to talk about everything in detail.
Right. From the way that, who knows if it's true or not, the way the directors tell it is that they begged them, asked them, had to really work on them to participate. I don't know. And what do you think about Moses and Woody Allen not participating? They say they were asked.
I don't know. I think it's interesting that he like port of Allen for whatever reason. I don't know. But I thought it was interesting that they pulled these snippets of his audiobook apropos of nothing. And that was his whole approach of like how he was the father when, according to other observers, he wasn't. He was just kind of a guy who showed up.
Yeah, I had some, when you're dating someone and you have 7 kids, you go out on a couple dates and the guy said, I have no interest in kids, and you have 7 kids. Don't you cut it off and say, I don't want this to go any further? Not like
how many
this is the guy for me.
How many kids does she have total? Because at that time she had 7, and then they added more and more, right?
Right. I think I have a list of 14 or 15 kids she has had all together. Yeah. It's intense. And
then Dershowitz shows up too, so they got another guy who's embroiled with Epstein is in there making commentaries. Dershowitz is still in court with Virginia Giuffre. I don't know what the update on that case is.
I don't either, but it's just, I thought, wow, if only she knew. If only she knew. And you wonder if he was like a double agent, in that whole thing. Did he represent her correctly? Did he have any kind of friendship with Woody Allen at that time through Epstein? It'd be interesting to know.
I mean, it seems like Allen was over at Epstein's place a lot. There's pictures of them together when Allen's with Suni, and same with Dershowitz. I mean, according to other observers, Dershowitz was in and out of that mansion on the Upper East Side. Is that right?
He was the Upper East Side. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a smaller world, and they brought up Polanski, Jackson, Cosby, all these other kind of abusers too. So it's
have you heard I'm sorry. Have you heard Kathy Griffin tell the story of when she met Woody Allen?
No. What's the story?
The story is that he doesn't know any sort of current celebrities that she's trying to, I guess she got seated next to him at some sort of dinner party. Mm-hmm. And the one celebrity that he knew was Miley Cyrus. And he said he never missed an episode of Hannah Montana. Because he said she just has something. And it's sad to see what's happened. So he's watching,
weird, stuff, was it Nickelodeon or something?
Yeah. And then he said, well, and I right now I'm watching my friend Bill Cosby get railroaded. That's what he said to her. And he hints, you can see he's starting to go there in his book, talking about Weinstein, and he kind of cuts it short. It looks like he's going to complain that he got a raw deal, and he kind of cuts it short and finesses it, the audio part that they use in the documentary.
Right, but they had other kind of celebrities come out in defense of Woody Allen, and then some gave their money back, right? I mean,
right.
There definitely were, and I think it was interesting when Ronan brought up the transactional access journalism theme about how Allen kind of manipulated, and I think his PR person was Leslie Dart, how they kind of expected certain things in, certain journalism access with strings attached. Did you kind of get that impression?
Yes, and we saw that with Bill Cosby. Speaking of Bill Cosby, where he said, if you want to be seen as a serious journalist, you better scuttle this interview where I'm confronted with these allegations. And he also gave a story of his daughter in exchange for a story about him assaulting women to be, buried.
Very,
yeah. So it seems like it's common thing in Hollywood.
Hollywood, yeah. Never really get to the truth. That's why so much of this stuff gets put. I mean, you can actually bring up the West Memphis 3. How few people bring that up, and real journalists. So you can kind of a broader, landscape that this is going on, not just Alan, but all kinds of other people too.
And I also had to, when Nicholas Kristof of the New York Times came up in the documentary, saying that I was happy to give Dylan a voice. I was happy to give this victim a voice. This is the same Nicholas Kristof, and I tweeted this, who has been trying to free Kevin Cooper. This rapist murderer killed a whole family in California that also Kim Kardashian is trying to get out.
Right. Yeah, I remember that.
He's been writing love letter pieces and starts talking about the media and fact checking and, the whole theme of what Woody Allen said, the whole theme of the documentary, it doesn't matter what's true, it matters what's believed. And I thought, wow, that's really interesting because certainly that's what Nicholas Kristof is doing with that Kevin Cooper case. He has written so many articles leaving out most of the evidence and pulling, and really obscuring the truth of that story in order to free a multi, killer.
Right. But didn't the appeal say that there was no chance anybody else could have done the crime, if I remember correct? Wasn't Cooper in like an abandoned house or something like that?
Right. He broke out of prison. I don't know this case as well as I know others, but he broke out of prison, went to a family's house, murdered the whole family, and I think there was one of the smaller male children lived, and then they wanted to test and then stole their car, escaped. Right. So he was already on the run from prison when this happened.
Right, I remember.
He escaped from prison, killed all these people in Chino Hills, California, and then they tested his DNA, and they purposely, as the Innocence Project does, test things that weren't related to the scene of the crime or weren't part of the prosecution's argument. So they were things that they thought might turn up other people's DNA, but they failed because it all came back with his DNA on it. So miraculously, that almost never works like that.
And then he's pictured with Kardashian, right? Smiling.
Hugging him.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Oy.
So it's an interesting mix of all these stories under this story. So then there's Alan Dershowitz, there's Nicholas Kristof, there's all these people, and each of those people have a story of their own. It's fascinating.
Yeah, and I thought it was interesting that they kind of brought out the female film critics really to try to give some context to Alan and his movies and what it was like to kind of now looking at his movies in retrospect after all of these events. I thought that was it seems like Woody Allen is nobody. There was all these up and coming actors and actresses that wanted to work with him. It seems like that's dried up. Do you think that that's true?
He's over. This is the death knell in his career. This documentary, it's over for him. It's over. It's at least in America. Maybe in Europe he'll have some kind of career, but not in America anymore. It's over.
Didn't they say his most recent film was distributed in France but not in the U.S.?
Yes.
Something like that. Yeah.
But he doesn't have a chance of having a comeback. No, his whole reputation is ruined, as it should be, But he will always have, like Michael Jackson has, these sort of male super fans, and in this case, they're kind of these skeptic guys who like to call themselves skeptics without being very skeptical themselves. and they will do his bidding. They have a million blogs, a million YouTube videos they're making with, a great deal of views, and they will continue to try to spin this as much as they can by denying all the evidence and mainly trying to put the focus on Mia Farrow.
Dylan was coached methodically. That was the theme that they were always trying to impress upon her. I think that's why those home movies were oft repeated in the documentary, is because they were trying to show that Farrow was just kind of asking Dylan questions, not trying to coach her.
What did you think of those clips?
I mean, I had an uncomfortable feeling watching the entire thing because it was so, like you said, I just felt like there was a lack of objectivity. But I felt like as a juror,
they were sold as the big piece of evidence. To me, they're very clippy and hard to tell what happened before or after. I certainly believed her when she was talking, but I think I found much more. I mean, what convinces me again is what comes out of Woody Allen's mouth and his actions. It's not so much. It's yes, I believe her. If evidence came out that she was coached, fine. But I don't think it doesn't look coached, certainly from those clips, that it's hard to tell what's going on. I think.
Well, her new husband didn't seem to believe that she was coached.
Oh, I don't believe she was. I don't believe she was coached, but it's just hard to tell in those clips. They're very, it's very hard to get a child. And
yeah,
the other problem with the coaching story is that I guess, she'd have no memory of being coached, and then it would become her own. It's just hard to say. No one saw it happening. It's just, all the other, every piece sort of adds up. Not every piece, but a lot of the pieces. Enough of the puzzle so we can see the picture in this. That how it happened, how it sort of built up, these kind of resentments. What I'd like to know is what was going on in Mia Farrow and Woody Allen's relationship. Was it anything, or was it just spite, pure spite, to just cause this much destruction and this much upset? And he seems to like doing it. There seems to be some pleasure in tearing her down and tearing the family down.
Yeah, I got that feeling too. Like a little thrill, like he was getting kind of a dark satisfaction or something out of that. Like he's a famous guy. He has money. I think I looked at he's like worth $140 million.
Wow.
Yeah, so he could probably have paid Epstein or whatever for whatever thrills that he wanted and not have to worry about it. So then there's something else involved when it's like you're a predator on your own girlfriend's kids. So that's, there's definitely some kind of deep dysfunction.
One thing I was glad that the documentary did, because I read Moses's blog, several of his posts, especially the very famous blog that he wrote about his mother, and that the train set didn't exist, and that he watched his sister the whole day. And I was very glad that they could debunk those things, because that was absurd to say that the train set didn't exist. Those kind of details are really important, and I do not think that the Connecticut investigators would go up to that room and find those details missing and just say, okay, that would be a major red flag.
Right. So, yeah. I mean, there was a criminal investigation, right? So, I mean, all that stuff. There was weird stuff, too. Like, why would he make this kind of, like, public statement at the Plaza Hotel? Like, oh, I'm going to go give a, public hearing here. And I thought that was odd, too. Like, why wouldn't he just, do something at his house, just somewhere else? It's almost like a kind of unnecessarily ornate, public statement. Did you get any feel for that from him?
The Plaza is a beloved New York, at the time, New York institution, and he's reminding everyone that he's part of that beloved. He's also a beloved part of a New York institution himself. I don't know.
Right. So it
That's
kind
how
of
I
makes
make that
sense, right?
right. Of course, I'm going to be. It's just one of the most elegant, amazing buildings, right on Central Park. He's part of that. I don't. I think that has a lot to do with why New York was so quick to, like I said. But the
Just let
other
it
odd
go.
thing was that when the psychiatrist said, who's dealing with Woody Allen and his odd obsession with Dylan, says that his behavior isn't sexual. It can be perceived by the child as sexual, but it isn't sexual.
Yeah, that doesn't
So
make any sense.
here's my question, William Ramsey. What's the difference with a child being subjected to behavior that they perceive as sexual but isn't, versus a child being subjected to behavior, and I would guess that would go along with, and actions, I'm going to add that to the first as well, that is sexual? Do you know what I mean? Like, what's the difference in the child's mind, whether it is or not? If the child perceives it that way, isn't it equally as damaging?
Yeah, I would say so. Definitely. I got to wrap this up. My cat's really going crazy. Do you have anything you'd like to add? No, it's not your fault. I'm sorry to break this off, but it's kind of like a minor emergency. Where can people go see you? It's on Roberta Glass True Crime Report on YouTube, right? And then also you have your podcast, right? True Crime.
Yeah, I'm on YouTube. I'm on iTunes, Castbox, everywhere you can find a podcast.
Awesome.
I'm there. Thanks.
Roberta Glass, thank you so much. And
thank you. Hope you're okay.
I'm fine. The cat, not so much. I gotta go. All right, take care. Thanks so much.
Bye.